A comprehensive guide about income-based apartments. The preceding post discussed affordable housing, which you should be aware of. This blog will further discuss the various categories of affordable housing. In an economy where rent prices continue to grow, particularly in major cities, the demand for affordable rental accommodation has never been more robust. If you're looking for an inexpensive apartment with a low income, you've undoubtedly already encountered the difficulty of locating low-income housing. The good news is that several facilities and apartment communities provide economical accommodation. In general, housing where the occupant pays no more than 30% of their salary for gross housing expenditures, including utilities. So, how can you afford to rent an apartment when your salary is less than your monthly payments? Income-based apartments are one alternative. Therefore, people may live within their means while having a place to call home. But, precisely, what are income-based apartments? More importantly, how can you qualify for such a lifestyle? Understanding how the process works can put you in a good position as a renter. Everything you need to know about income-based apartments, as well as inventive methods to save money on rent, is right here. What exactly is an income-based apartment? Income-based apartments are government schemes that provide subsidies to landlords for housing to lower-income households. This is accomplished by providing a tax benefit to tenants or building managers. This allows them to deduct higher costs and earn tax breaks. However, this benefit isn't only for landlords. It is also in place for developers that specialize in apartment buildings. Contractors that create flats for low-income people may recoup up to 55% of their construction expenses from the government. When you consider the high cost of developing a complex, this is a tremendous benefit. How do you find an income-based apartment? Understanding you qualify for an income-based apartment and locating one that meets your requirements are two whole different tales. The most effective technique to discover an apartment is to search online in a specific language. Look for flats that mention tax credits as well as income. Once you've selected a property, you must first contact the landlord or management to qualify for income-based status. The landlord must comply with the legislation to reap the advantages of income-based housing. This implies that they may reject you based on a single error in your documentation. So, before meeting with the management, make sure you have your tax return paperwork, identification for all tenants, and birth certificates for any dependent children. When the landlord gets all of your information, they may submit it with your housing application for approval. If your application is accepted, you will have 30 days to move into your new home. What should you inquire about income-based apartments? Programs offered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and local accommodation authorities may help those with low, or very low incomes with safe, acceptable, and inexpensive housing. Understanding the complexities of programs like Section 8 and public housing may be challenging, so if you're thinking of renting an income-based apartment, ask your local public housing agency the following questions to better understand the programs and procedures. Concerns about qualifying. The first questions you should ask are if you qualify for low-income housing. Income restrictions for public housing and Section 8 applications are set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Section 8 aids very low and very low-income applicants, while public housing assists low, very low, and highly low-income candidates. Senior citizens and those with disabilities may also be eligible for low-income housing, so if this applies to you or anyone in your family, be sure to inquire. Concerns regarding available housing. Inquire about the kind of properties available to you if you qualify. The availability of low-income housing varies depending on where you want to reside. High-rise structures and single-family dwellings are both examples of public housing. These residences are designated for low-income public housing. Section 8 is different in that you may reside in whatever rental home you like as long as the landlord agrees to accept your Section 8 vouchers as part of your monthly rent. Concerns regarding rent. It would help if you also inquired about the rent you will be paying in low-income housing. Your local public housing organization will determine the amount of rent you will pay each month. The San Francisco Housing Authority, for example, often sets public housing rent at 30% of a family's monthly adjusted income. Inquire about when the rent is due, where to submit it, what form of payment the rent should be in, and any late fines. Concerns regarding application. Learn what documents you will need to apply for public housing or Section 8. Most likely, you will need to carry identification for each member of your family, such as birth certificates or social security cards. You may also be requested to prove your income, so save any bank records and pay stubs for future reference. Finally, inquire about the length of the wait. If you are judged to be qualified, you will be put on a waiting list for public housing if the housing agency cannot offer you a house right away. Is it possible to rent an apartment without a job? Whether you're wondering if you can rent an apartment with no income, the answer is maybe. Landlords may tolerate a lack of income depending on your location and the rental market. However, you must remain resourceful and attentive during the process. Here's how to get ready. Obtain a guarantor. Your landlord may accept a guarantee as a co-signer on your lease. As the term indicates, the guarantor is legally obligated to pay your rent if you fail to do so. A guarantor might be a parent or relative who has spare cash to contribute and is prepared to pay your rent. Your landlord will want a guarantor with a steady source of income. After all, your guarantor is pledging to pay your rent in addition to their own. Find a sublet. Landlords may be more accommodating if you are a subletter, mainly staying for a short time. A landlord may enable an existing renter to take you in as a roommate in particular circumstances. If you don't pay, the existing tenant you're moving in with is likely still on the hook for the whole rent. Set ground rules with your roommate and expectations for rental payments from the beginning. Private landlords. Landlords who rent out a room, garage apartment, basement, or complete unit may be more inclined to overlook your lack of income. These scenarios need some networking and a present connection with the landlord in most cases. Gather personal and professional references. If you can find an apartment without a job, your landlord will most likely want extra security. Begin amassing a list of glowing personal and professional contacts who can testify to your character, earning capability, and dependability. Pay more rent up ahead. Landlords that are ready to overlook income verification may need more pay up front. Your landlord may agree to a larger security deposit or several months of rent in advance if the additional money is worth the risk. Keep in mind that landlords and property managers seek high-quality renters who provide them with long-term financial stability. Put yourself in their place and try to make the procedure as easy as feasible for them. Additional documents, references, professionalism, and patience can all help you get your next lease. There is no shame in admitting that you need assistance. So many individuals are homeless and striving to make ends meet. So, taking advantage of a government program to secure housing for you and your family is a courageous step. But it's crucial to remember that just because you live in an income-based apartment doesn't mean you have to put up with neglect. What kinds of documents can be used to support income? The good news is that there are various methods for proving your income. Whenever possible, find out what documentation a landlord would want ahead of time. If your property management prefers one document over another, it's usually a good idea to carry a few extras with you. Here are some of the most typical methods for proving your income while looking for a new apartment. 1. Pay stub. Your pay stub may also be used to confirm other information in the tenant screening process, such as who employs you. 2. Proof of income letter. If you're new to your work and haven't yet received your first paycheck, you'll need a proof of income letter. 3. Wage and tax statement, W-2. For tax reasons, a W-2 statement is issued. It also tells you how much money you make each year. If you work for many companies, your landlord may want a W-2 from each. 4. Last year's tax return, 1040. Landlords often want more than a tax form since it only shows your income for the previous year. Your landlord will still need to verify your work and wage status to guarantee an accurate report. 5. Bank statements. Landlords need a clearer picture of how much they genuinely make if you don't have a typical source of income. 6. Pension distribution statement. Pension statements may be used to demonstrate income as well. 7. Proof of income from Social Security. If you get Social Security income, you may use it as proof of income. You will need a letter or other proof outlining your monthly benefits. 8. Court-ordered agreements. Alimony, settlement fees, and child support payments are considered regular income. The court will send you a letter outlining the agreements. If you don't have one, talk to your lawyer or contact your local courthouse to find one. 9. Workers' compensation letter. If you are injured on the job, you may be able to file a workers' compensation claim, which will supplement your income. In rare situations, it may completely replace your income. Provide evidence of income in the form of a letter from the court or an insurance provider. 10. Unemployment compensation letter. Unemployment benefits from being laid off are also included as verifiable income. 11. Annuity statement. These documents reflect the precise amount of money you earn and the insurance company's distribution schedule. Landlords may want a mix of papers to prove income. This is frequently the case if you have a transitory source of money. For example, a dividend statement, together with last year's tax return, may offer an accurate picture of your finances. Landlords may encounter fake paperwork from previous renters and may request numerous pieces of verification to ensure their income is accurate. How do you get approved for an income-based apartment? To qualify for income-based housing, you must first determine the typical household income in your neighborhood. Your whole family must earn up to 60% less than the city's average income. This implies that if you live with more than one working individual, you must include their income. It would help if you had all of your papers to show your eligibility. In particular, your tax returns. You must demonstrate that you paid income tax and that your income after taxes is at the 60% level. It's also worth noting that if you're a parent, you might qualify in any case. Income-based flats are more likely to be approved for single parents or families with one working parent. However, this must be shown on your tax returns. You must demonstrate that you have at least one dependent kid. How can you protect yourself as a renter? It is critical to understand that you, as a tenant, have options. Even though you live in an income-based apartment, you have rights that protect you from being taken advantage of. Simply because you need an income-based apartment does not imply that you must live in deplorable conditions. So, as a renter, how can you safeguard yourself? Here are some precautions you can take to keep yourself and your family safe. Conduct your research. The most remarkable approach to protecting yourself is researching who you are renting from. It is much simpler to discover a record of how individuals act in the digital era. Landlords, like corporations, are subject to public inspection and assessment. A brief online search of the landlord or building management will reveal a history of how they handle individuals. This is also a terrific method to know what you're getting yourself into. There's no reason you can't be choosy, even when it comes to income-based housing. Understand your rights. Knowing your rights under your state's laws may be the best approach to defend yourself. Renters have the right to have repairs done and rights that protect them from being evicted unexpectedly. Some landlords believe they have all of the cards. An immediate threat of eviction, on the other hand, is meaningless if your landlord isn't performing their job. It is critical to exercise caution and protect oneself. Fortunately, there are regulations in place to assist and keep you and your family safe. So, do your homework and ask as many questions as you can. Instead of seeing it as a sign of loss, consider it a chance to improve yourself and your financial condition. What are some rent saving strategies? It is essential to have rent savings. Even if you qualify for income-based housing, saving a little extra money never hurts. This may help you improve your financial situation and get you out from under a landlord's thumb and into your own house. It is essential to realize that saving money for a house and not paying your rent is different. You may be evicted soon if you do not pay your rent and do not communicate with your landlord. Being in good standing with your landlord, on the other hand, may allow you to save money. Here are some of the most cost-effective strategies to save money on rent. Snow removal and lawn care. Manual work is something that not all landlords like. A construction business will often hire an outside worker to take care of the place. This means they hire someone to mow the lawn, rake the leaves, trim the hedges, and even shovel the driveway. Landlords are constantly seeking methods to reduce their operating expenses. Building managers have more money in their pockets since they do not have to pay an outside business. So, how do you fit in? If you have a good relationship with your landlord or management, you might make a bargain with them. Many renters may agree to undertake this task in return for a lower rent. Select a studio apartment. Studio flats are the smallest apartments available and are sometimes the cheapest. They are one-room apartments where you sleep, cook, dine, and so on, all in the same room. Manager of an apartment. What's better than a lower rent? The solution is to pay little to no rent. If you reside in a multi-unit apartment complex, you may be able to work out a bargain with your landlord. Larger apartment complexes need someone to be on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are the ones who deal with immediate issues such as leakage or lost keys. Because most landlords do not live on their properties, they may seek someone to handle this work for them. Because apartment management is often a full-time profession, you may be able to swap it for reduced or even free rent. However, it is vital to remember that you must have some expertise in problem solving to qualify. Utilities. Utilities are often included in the rent in more significant apartment complexes. It is more challenging to manage things like heat and electricity with several units. As a result, landlords constantly seek innovative methods to save money on power. Making a utility-saving contract with your landlord is one approach to save money on rent. This means that you will keep a certain level of heat and will use energy-saving light bulbs. Even minor modifications might have a significant impact on an electricity bill. Your landlord may be ready to lower your rent if you adhere to energy-saving measures. Examine your lease. One typical error individuals make when renting an apartment is failing to read the small print in their agreement. Some leases, for example, expressly indicate that the landlord is liable for specific adjustments. This also depends on where you reside since some states have different rules. Many contracts state that the landlord is responsible for replacing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detector batteries. Check your lease if you've been spending on these batteries. Your landlord is required by law to repay you for any amount you have to expend on items for which they were legally accountable. Rather than asking your landlord for a check, inquire if they would temporarily decrease your rent to cover this amount.